Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it and I promise to update daily. If you love this watch, you could see it and you could purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. And today we're discussing what might be the earliest Audemars Piguet 15202 Jumbo you will encounter outside Audemars Piguet's own museum. This 15202ST in stainless steel represents a serial number in the mid-E series, but amongst 15202s, we're in the 30s. That's right, this is one of the first 3 dozen or so watches ever produced under the 15202 reference, and you'll see almost everything about this watch is a little bit different from the 2019 model, right down to the different tone of the dial, which is brighter, glossier, and more vibrant than any 15202 I have ever encountered. Now on my wrist, 16 centimeters in circumference, it's the classic 39mm Royal Oak Jumbo, dating back to 1972 and the reference 5402 penned by designer Gerald Genta. This has been the classic profile and proportion of the Royal Oak. It's the one that's known as the Jumbo. It was big for 1972, but today 39mm by 8mm thick is downright compact for a sports watch, though it does wear a size larger than you expect. Lug to lug, it measures 48.7mm, but if you include the solid end links, that is the double plots, these two intermediate links, they're actually rigid. They flare out. You're going to find that the watch is 52mm across the wrist. So it has a broad stance, and it's really better for you to think of it as a 40 or a 41 for the purpose of sizing this over the internet. The bracelet is wonderfully comfortable. You can see that serial number 39 has the same bracelet that we've historically associated with the Jumbo, which means it's a little bit more supple and thinner in gauge than what you'll find, for example, on a 15300, 400, or 500. Now you can see that it's fixed to the case using screws and bars, which is the right way to assemble an expensive watch, and I've always given Audemars Piguet tremendous credit for not resorting to spring bars on these models, even though it would be cheaper and expedient to do so. Now the finish is immaculate. You can see the case remains sharp with that expanding bevel from the mid-case over the lug hoods, continued perfectly aligned across the bracelet links. Now you can see that there's a curvature to the bracelet links here, but as I run my finger across, the tolerance, that is the step down from link to link, is seamless. I can see the curve, but I can't feel the steps of the links. That's how good the tolerances are. Now you can also see that the satin finish is perfectly aligned from link to link, and the bracelet is well designed with plenty of gap between the links to avoid pinching skin, pulling hair, or trapping wrist heat. Particularly take note, even back then, Audemars Piguet used screws to size a sports watch bracelets, not pin sleeves. AP included an older style clasp on this model. You can see both the AP logo and the single longitudinal trigger with the single fold interior is characteristic of early 15202 models. Remember, the 15202 came out in the year 2000 and it was built with several running changes through 2011. In 2012, it became a substantially different watch, though mechanically and dimensionally similar. The bracelets, the clasps, even the caseback rotor are distinctly different on the newer watches and not necessarily better. You can see that the case is the classic Royal Oak profile. You have a crown with hexagonal form and you have a bezel with character lines that run perfectly aligned from the bezel lip all the way through the case and down around the caseback. You can see that the hexagonal form of the crown matches the hexagonal white gold bolts inside the brushed steel lug profile, I should say bezel profile. Now it's important to note that the lug profile, is what I meant to say, is satin finished all the way along the longitudinal axis of the watch. So the satin finish continues beautifully across the hood of the bezel, whereas the flank of the bezel is mirror polished and there's a sharp break between. That can only be achieved by hand finishing and meticulous hand finishing. The satin of the bezel contrasts nicely with the polish of the countersunk white gold bolts, and I want to show you that you always know you're looking at a relatively fresh and minimally refinished AP bezel when you can see that the bezel itself is taller than the bolts. The bolts should be slightly countersunk into the bezel. That's a sign of an AP Royal Oak bezel in excellent condition. The dial here features a sort of ultramarine semi-gloss petite tapisserie. I've never seen anything like it. It's somewhere between ultramarine and cobalt. It's like the color of a Aegean seaside Greek chapel. It's hard to describe, and it's nothing like the dull navy blue that you see on other Royal Oaks, including most other Jumbos. This has a distinct gloss, gleam, and a lighter color tone to it. You'll also see that it's a tritium dial, so this is really old school Audemars Piguet. The dial features a set of outboard Arabic numerals and a dash or hash mark style minutes track. You have lozenge style white gold applique indices, white gold baton hands, and white gold AP logo up at 12 o'clock. Again, I mentioned that things changed in 2012. Well, one of the changes among many was the relocation of the AP logo from 12 to 6 and the arrival of a monotone date disc and the elimination of the Arabic numerals outboard. So this is characteristic of the early dials in more ways than one. Of course, the timepiece is powered by the legendary Audemars Piguet 2121 caliber. Now, back in 1967, this debuted as the JLC caliber 920, and it was designed as a movement commissioned jointly by Audemars Piguet, Vacheron Constantin, and Patek Philippe. The movement was used in the original Nautilus 3700, the Vacheron 222, and the Audemars Piguet 5402 Royal Oak Jumbo. Today, Vacheron and AP continue to use the movement, and AP continues to use it in the descendant of its original sports watch. Automatic winding, 36 jewels, adjusted in a chronometer style 5 positions. It beats away at a vintagey 19,800 vibrations per hour. It features a 40-hour power reserve, and you can see it uses a free-sprung Gyromax style balance, which is a sophisticated balance assembly and regulation system. So the timepiece features a full beryllium ring around the movement, and there are 4 ruby rollers at the 4 corners of the movement that allow the ring and the rotor to be ultra low, such that ordinarily they would contact the bridge as well as the base plate under conditions of shock. But with the beryllium ring and the ruby rollers, you can have a nice low rotor without any risk of direct contact between rotor and movement. I'll also mention that there is a freehand skeletonized and internally chamfered AP style rose gold rotor, and this is distinctly different from the ugly beveled unit featured post 2012. So in many ways, I said this watch is a little bit superior to what came after, and this is one of the primary reasons I say that. The finish on the movement is high horology, whereas something like a modern Audemars Piguet 4302, 4401, or 3120 caliber is going to be largely machine finished with some hand finished elements. This movement is always entirely hand finished, and you could see it upon close inspection with a loupe. I mentioned that this is one of the earliest of the 15202s, just past 3 dozen, number 39, and a mid E41000 serial number. This is one of the plank owner references. You can also see that the construction of the case is very much like the original Royal Oak 5402, as the case back itself is integral with the mid case. It's a monoblock case with a display case back, whereas today's Nautilus features a 3-piece case back, mid case, and bezel. So this watch is not just designed proportionally, sized, and powered like the original Jaeger-LeCoultre. It is even constructed down to the case fabrication method just as the original. It is a living legend, and in many ways, a coelacanth for your wrist. See it on the watch box.